Good evening, all. I was working on getting 2 new pseudonymous Observer Report episodes up and running, and a news report on the Camosun College music program attempting to save itself from being shut down owing to, being shut down on a vote on May 1st, owing to, coming up on May 1st, owing to education, cuts from the Ministry of Advanced Education at Camosun College here in Victoria, British Columbia. Unfortunately, something came across my desk that took precedent. A little while ago, I received a letter that was published in a blog that said, "Dear autistic parents, we do not wish to be cured." Amongst the things that it covered was the attempts by a group called Autism Speaks, the group that was founded by Jenny McCarthy to promote the pseudoscience that vaccines cause autism. Amongst their endeavors, one of their biggest funding, most of where their funding goes, is actually attempting to cure autism spectrum disorders. Now, again, I've stated in numerous videos in past years as to why autism is a legitimate brain wiring in its own form, autism spectrum disorders and Asperger's in particular. And with that in mind, I will be discussing I will be discussing below other sources that are particularly discouraging, shall we say, as well, that need to be addressed, including the fact that a recent news article has made the claim that the Aspies of yesteryear might be tomorrow's sociopaths, in light of the fact that the DSM-V has taken out the classification of Asperger Syndrome and reclassified it on the Autism Spectrum Disorder list in general. Not to mention South Park's trying to dismiss Asperger's as not real, yada yada yada. However, there is a very serious issue that has come up with in the news over the past little bit, and this is the physical bullying and outright killing of people with autism spectrum disorders based on discrimination. Now, again, as I said, bad enough. Like I said, standard discrimination per society is one thing and is bad enough. Miscommunication about social issues for high-functioning autism spectrum disorders and discrimination because of that is bad enough. But when autistic people, and especially autistic people who are living very close to me, or very close to myself, very close to where I live, are getting murdered because of the fact that they are autistic, this takes the issue to a whole new level. Sorry, I'm trying to calm down, but allow me to illustrate what I'm talking about. The letter I was talking about, regarding the open letter to autistic parents, makes a claim, though there was no reference in said, there was no linked reference in said article, about how dozens of autistic people a year are being killed by their parents on the grounds that the parents do not feel that they can support the children or for various other reasons. Well, that proof just came up in British Columbia. A couple of days ago, a young autistic man was killed by his mother, and then his mother left a suicide note explaining that she killed her son because she felt she could not support him, and then she committed suicide. Now, I feel it bad enough that the mom had to commit suicide because clearly there might have been some issues going on in her own mind in the first place. Also, she could have been committing suicide because because she felt remorse, heavy remorse, at having to kill her own son. That I completely, I feel extremely bad for her. I feel extremely bad for her about the fact that she had to do that. That she felt like that and that she had to do that. And my heart goes out to the mother and the grieving family of both the mother and said autistic child that this situation came up. That being said, I also feel that there is this is a very bad sign about how sick our culture has become towards autism. Now, I will admit, yes? Sorry, I'll try to keep the volume down. Sorry, I think my next-door neighbor was knocking on my door because I was speaking too loud. But, again, please understand that I feel very strongly about this issue, having an autism spectrum disorder. Anyway, where was I? Yes. The key point about this is the fact that, as I said, an autistic person was killed by his mother because of the fact that he was autistic. The fact is that because of the fact that, yes, only a few dozens of children are being killed per year, assuming that the source that I originally got from with regards to the actual statistics is true. So the risk for any one autistic person of being killed is small. But nonetheless, it is a risk that is unacceptable, period. A person should not have to walk around in fear for their life at any level, because of who they are. Be they a homosexual, be they a member of an ethnic group, be they have any disability, mental or physical, not just Asperger's or an autism spectrum disorder. To this end, I am making a rallying call. Below is another news article which talks about a child who was physically bullied in the United States recently, and whose parents of the children who were the bullies claimed that the autistic child deserved what he got, despite physical threat. This is the same sort of victim blaming that we see in rape cases and other things like that in our, where women are murdered and raped because they dressed in a particular way. This is the same sort of thing that we see with slut shaming or other things like that. I'm also linking, assuming I've been able to find the link by the end of this video, I'm also linking to an old Encyclopedia Drammatica article, which is supposed to be a joke, but which calls for Action T4 against autistic people. Action T4 was the term used by the Nazis for their particular plans for sterilizing and removing from the gene pool anyone who had a disability, be it physical or mental, so as not to pollute the Aryan gene pool, as well as also outright killing them by sending them to concentration camps. Now again, my point is that while this may be while the actual death toll of people with autism spectrum disorders may be very low, even for the percentage of the population, even in relation to the percentage of the population that have an autism spectrum disorder, I would like to address, and I cannot stress this enough, that there is a discrimination going on against people with autism spectrum disorders. It is very real, and it is life-threatening. And it is life-threatening, even though the risk may be relatively low statistics-wise. The fact is, this risk, even though it is low, is still unacceptable. We live in a culture where we are supposed to be able, last I checked, at least in Canada and the United States, to be able to have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or life, liberty, and the or life, liberty, equality, and fraternity if you live in France, or at the very least, a life of liberty, security, and freedom from discrimination in Canada. So, how can we live in a culture where, how can we call ourselves a truly free and respecting culture when people like people with autism spectrum disorders have their lives in very danger simply from this discrimination? As Mahatma Gandhi pointed out about the Amritsar Massacre, yes, it was an isolated extreme incident, but it was an extreme reaction of a more common underlying viewpoint from the Brits towards Indians. I have to address the issue that if there were not a background milieu of discrimination against people with autism spectrum disorders, the likelihood that a mother would have the idea come into her head of killing her autistic child because she felt she could not support him, rather than say, oh, I don't know, if they couldn't, putting him up for adoption or asking other people to help. That maybe the likelihood of the mother having killed her child in this case in Prince Rupert, British Columbia, would have been even lower. So I have to say, this is a society-wide problem, and I'm officially making a rallying cry now to. I'm trying to keep calm here because I am aware of the personal bias in my system, owing to having an autism spectrum disorder. Nonetheless, I do feel that this is a major issue, and that we need to make a rallying cry. Therefore, I'm making this cry to everyone with an autism spectrum disorder, and to anyone who supports people with autism spectrum disorders, and most importantly, to anyone who values freedom and equality for everybody. That we need to make people aware of this issue. We need to do something. We need to remedy through law and societal reform, through legal and societal reform. We need to make it enshrined in our culture that people, based on their disability or whatever state they happen to be in, i.e. based on who they are, need not fear discrimination up to and including their own death. I believe I said my piece with regard to this. Please post in the comments below and follow the links accordingly, and please share your thoughts on this. I would also ask you to please share this video with everyone you know if you value freedom and equality. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't share it that you are automatically somehow discriminatory. This is an appeal to please share this video for ongoing discussion, not sorry, let me phrase this. I am not compelling you to share this for that reason. I am asking you politely to share this video because I am concerned about the fact that I and others with my sort of disability are now physically at risk. Or to be more precise, I at least now have I at least have a bit more empirical evidence that we are at risk and that this issue needs to be seriously considered and addressed. I thank you for your time, and I wish you all a happy Earth Day in Canada, just a good day in general, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for your time.